Pride. Pride is the fall of humanity. I often talk about love and repentance and humility, but the opposite of this is pride. And to use the image of the garden, this is the perfect image. If Adam and Eve did not eat the fruit, God would have given it to them. I love this interpretation. They had to wait to receive what God is willing to give them. Because, like it says in Genesis, man is made out of the dust, and the Spirit of God gives him life. But without that, he becomes dust. So the allegorical teaching here is that we are dependent on God. God is our source of life, right? So this framework that is taught from the beginning pours into all aspects of our life. So it's good to use an image of a fruit. Jonathan Peugeot has taught on this quite lovely, but imagine God is in the highest place with a bunch of fruit hanging down from God, and we are at a lower level, reaching and grabbing the fruit down to this lower level and saying that it belongs here. But rather, God has to give the fruit to us. And in that way, we end up climbing this hierarchy in some sense. I'm sort of making up something now. In a way that we treat it in the manner that God would treat it with. But when we bring down God's greater, higher goods onto our level, we end up distorting them. And this is very metaphorical, allegorical, but let's use some practical means to this. Your wealth, right? Your wealth can be used to be a source of love. You can provide for the poor. You can create a world of prosperity. And you can share the wealth. And you can have a community of joy and happiness through not being overly attached to your money, to be willing to share to be able to share your capital, to distribute, right? But when we store up for ourselves, what can happen? We can buy a bunch of fancy cars, we can end up with a big fat mansion, and we can die with billions of dollars in the bank and die alone in our pool drunk, to make the image as ugly as possible. But the idea is you create a world of, you can create a world of self-servitude if you just store up treasures for yourself. And this is the idea. I think it's the verse of the day actually on Bible.com, but it's, do not store up for yourself treasures on earth where moth and worm destroy, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. And the idea is that you're not attached to these temporal things, and you are using what God has given you in the way that God would use it. You're treating it as the higher good that it is, as opposed to treating it like it's dust, right? Because you're grabbing this divine fruit and then you're treating it as if it's dust, because you are dust. As the human being, you are dust. The world around you is dust. It's temporal, it's fleeting. And you're taking something divine and treating it as such, right? And this is what pride is doing. It's saying you are the highest position. You are the greatest thing. So this hierarchy of God and man, this is the highest plane. So what I have is because of me, not from what God has given me. So you end up doing things in your own way, and you end up destroying and making the world a worse place. So it's basically saying, I'm willing to sacrifice for virtue. I'm willing to sacrifice for the good, for love, right? These are the highest order things. So you are putting your faith in goodness, which is God, and saying, I will treat these things in proper manner. Our reputation is a massive source of pride. In St. Paisios' TV show, go watch it. So good. Paisios is the fastest kid with his friends. But they go on and saying, no, he's faster, no, or actually he didn't win the race or whatever. And Paisios as a little kid is like, no, they must acknowledge that I'm the fastest because I am. Like he is the fastest. But he wants that acknowledgement. And then his mom asks him, do you love running? And then he's like, yes, I love running. Then run here at home and be the fastest here. Why do you need them to tell you that you're the fastest? Because we want the recognition for ourselves, right? We're not just appreciating the fact that we are alive and that we can run fast, you know, from what God has given us, the talents that we have, and appreciating it for that sake. No, we want the world's recognition. We want to be told that we are something. We want to be called great. So pride, as we see here, is not keeping things in their correct place and not seeing ourselves as being in the correct place. So the most humbling thing to recognize is your mortality, your temporality. You are going to die. You are dust. You know, you in some sense very little. And the things that allows you as a person to transcend is the fact that we have love in our hearts, and that we can be binded as a community through things like love. So humility is knowing your correct position, knowing what you actually are, recognizing that you are dust, and to dust you shall return. But if you turn to love, this is the other teaching in Genesis, it's not just that you are dust, but it's that you are marked with the image of God. And the image of God, as we know, revealed to Jesus Christ, is of ultimate sacrificial love, even for enemy. So when you put your faith in that order of I am dust, but what makes me as a human marked with divinity are these higher virtues rooted in love. So humility, recognize the fact that you are dust and you are dependent on love as a divine source that binds us as a community, so that you aren't storing up for yourself. There's no need to magnify yourself. There's not even a need to do it. You don't need a good reputation. You can do things on your own. You can stand alone before God. You don't need attention, recognition, when you know you are acting according to Christ. So to be able to be alone before God is to say, I don't need anything from the world because God is enough. The fact that I am participating in love, in the greatest fruit that was given to me, that is my satisfaction. And pride ceases to exist. such that when other people enter our lives, we treat them as fellow partakers in this divine community of love. So pride is where we fall. We become an island of self-servitude. Everything is pointed to ourselves, and we are tortured by our own grandiosity. You can't connect with other people when you are the source of everything. When you relinquish your desire to be magnified, you are able to meet other people for who they are, because you are who you are. You are not pretending to be something that you aren't. So it's also the source of authenticity to relinquish your pride. Because can you connect with someone that doesn't treat themselves as what they actually are? You're not meeting them in their essence, or to for lack of better words. So to humble yourself before God is to accept who you are. I'm a sinner. I'm dust. I'm going to die. I have flaws. I have mistakes. I have insecurities. But I have the potentiality to transcend. I can give. I can create things. I can do amazing things. I can run. I can create artistic works. I can change the world. But it is because there have been goods given to me, whether it's my talents or whether it's my ability to rise up towards God's divine virtues. Okay. Humble yourself and you will be free. You will be free from this island of self-servitude. Slavoj Zizek said something like this, and I think it's applicable to what I'm saying in terms of coming to know Christ. But he said something like psychoanalysis is to get you to stop thinking about yourself all the time and actually live in the world and do what you want to do. I'm saying being free from pride and humbling yourself and living according to love frees yourself from this island of claiming everything for your own pleasure, for yourself, such that you are allowed to partake in a community of love, which is what the church is meant to be. This is what the kingdom of heaven is, and this is what it means when when Christ says the kingdom of heaven lives within our hearts. It's that we can be freed from this grand self-servitude, this desire to magnify ourselves. So throw yourself at Christ, compare yourself to Christ, recognize that you are dust and a sinner, but also that you can transcend towards God.